are finally live tonight. Yay. Okay, so we had just a couple computer glitches that fortunately we have smoothed out tonight. And as you can see, I brought more friends with me this evening. We had a really great show last week, Luis. Like,
We sure did.
You
Yeah, I
brought
had
in
a lot
those
of fun
viewers.
last week.
There was a lot of interest in the videos. It got shared a lot. And so guys, thank you. As you jump on board, just saying thank you for sharing these videos. Those of you who have shared it to your support pages, those of you who have shared it to your personal pages, really appreciate it. This show is about educating, empowerment, and informing the amputee limb loss community, and it's all word of mouth. So thank you guys so much for all the support that you've been giving us these past few weeks. So as you come on board, those of you who are new to the show, there's a little hazing ritual, and that involves you got to give me a shout out. So you got to let me know who you are, where you're from, and more importantly, what you're drinking this evening. Julie, Luis, did you guys bring anything? Anything good?
Yeah. Hot peppermint tea.
Oh, and a very nice.
I've got a glass of water.
You were here last week, man. I gave you a hard time last week for bringing the water, and he brought the water again. All right,
That's
guys.
all I had.
We have got wow. That audience just popped up out of nowhere. Guys, you are awesome. Thank you so much for coming on board this evening. All right, I'm going to stop chitter-chattering. I'm going to do my intro, and I'm going to let these folks take over because they're going to be way more interesting to listen to than I am. For those of you who are new to the show, my name is Cosi Talks. I'm a physical therapist, amputee specialist here in Tampa, Florida. I've been a PT now for 17 years. I got to get used to saying that. And my passion is working with the limb loss community. And tonight I have with me from Blatchford, formerly known as Endolight, for those of you who are a little late to that game, we have Luis Mora. Say hi, Luis. He is our resident prosthetist for the evening, expert extraordinaire on all Blatchford products, especially the hydraulic microprocessor ankle, the Elan. And last week, guys, if you didn't watch last week's show, you need to go back and watch it. We went through all the different classifications of prosthetic feet, and we brought you the research and the information on the Elan. The pros, the cons, the benefits, and everything else. And tonight, I am so excited to have Julie Conley on board. Say hi, Julie. Beautiful Julie right there. So I actually spoke with Julie way back in October, November, when we were trying to decide what we wanted to feature on the show. And when I heard her story, I was like, we need to have her on this show. So I know we didn't get to do it back in 2019, and I'm so excited that you're my first special guest story for 2020. Couldn't have picked a better story than the one that you're going to give us this evening. So I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let you start talking. So Julie, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
All right. Well, my name is Julie Conley. I live on beautiful Camano Island in the state of Washington. I'm about an hour north of Seattle. And I am a member of the limb loss community by choice, sort of. I was going to get there anyway. It was going to happen anyways, but I said the whens and the wheres and the hows. And I don't regret a day of it. It was the right decision for me at the time.
Wonderful. And we're starting to get some, okay, now all of the comments are coming in. We got a lot of hellos coming in. Everybody is excited to see you, Julie.
Hello, everyone.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if you guys can see these comments or not. We've got Jeff on board, Benny, Harsh, Grant, Scott, Carol, Susie, Joan, Susan, Casey, Barbara, Steven. Wow, we've got a lot of folks on board here to listen to your story.
You got a lot of friends, Julie. I don't have that many
friends. I have a few. You know, you make a lot of friends when you go through this process. People that you didn't know before this. It's a whole new family once you go through it. And I've got some great ones and some oldies but goodies. I see some of my family members popping up in there. Hi, Susie.
Okay. Oh, that's wonderful. And then Luis, don't, you brought some of the heat last week. So I think people are back here to pick your brain again this week, I'm sure. So Julie, your journey to limb loss started pretty early in your life.
Yeah, I actually was born with a congenital deformity called a club foot. Anybody out there, club foot, chime in, say hey.
Yep.
I had a fairly normal childhood. Well, it was normal for me. I went through all the casting and surgeries and things that are necessary to try to straighten out a crooked foot. And I had an active childhood. I played sports. I marched competitively in the marching band all through high school. And when I hit about the age of 30, all those repairs that I had had as a child just started breaking down, and surgeries became more and more common for me. And my amputation, I believe, was my 15th surgery. And that was after 2 total midfoot fusions failed. So I had 2 really big surgeries and was non-weight bearing for a really long time. And it took almost 4 years just to try to recover from those 2 surgeries. And when it failed for the second time and they offered me a 3rd attempt, I said, now that's the definition of insanity. It will be the same thing and I'm supposed to expect a different result. And I was ready to start resuming my life, whatever that looked like. I knew I would be okay. And I just wanted to start over. And so from the moment I woke up in the hospital and I looked down and it was gone and the reality of my situation set in, for me, it was just day one. I never regretted it and I haven't looked back since. It was the right choice for me.
Wow. And then your recovery process. I mean, you had already been through obviously multiple surgeries. So how is this recovery process different?
This was different only in that I had a couple little wound healing issues that we had to wait for. So my first experiment with a prosthetic was a little more delayed than I wanted, but I got there. I shout out to my dynamite team at Cornerstone Prosthetics. Hi guys, I know you're out there, who have been with me from day one and just taking really, really good care of me. And right out of the gate, I never felt handicapped I never felt handicapped. I felt new. It was just new. That's all. And I wanted to go forward without the pain. There were days that were not entirely comfortable, but it wasn't like the pain I'd been having before. So it was a new way to start living, and I wanted to find out what I could do. I'm not one of those ultra athletes out there that I admire to the moon and back for their ability to go out and, on their blades or whatever their prosthetic is and be super active in their sports. I would love to get a little more active, but I'm 57 years old. I'm pretty active for my age, and I don't sit around and feel broken. I go forth. I go forward.
And it's not, your story is going to resonate with so many people tonight. I have a lot of viewers that they had to go through that long process. I have one gentleman here, Doug, who's looking at his 2nd amputation coming up this week, and having to go through that long process of trying fusions, of trying surgery after surgery after surgery, and then the amputation happens, and obviously you are glad that you made that decision, but it's not without its obstacles. And that's the reality. And facing that reality of saying, okay, this was not going to be the easy way out. This is a challenge. And now we got to take this challenge by the horns and go for it and just keep living life. We've got comments coming in. I cannot keep up with these comments, Julie. We got Pat on board, Caitlin on board. Oh, Caitlin, girl, thanks for coming on board. Haven't seen you in a while. We got Andre on board. Robert Truman, Viola. Yeah, I can't keep up. I can't keep up, guys. And by the way, guys, we've got Luis up there. Don't let Luis get bored, okay? Start typing in some questions for Luis. Anything about Elan, the Echelon, anything Blatchford. Now's your chance. Ask him your questions. Julie, when you were fit for your first prosthesis, what did that look like?
Ooh, I was so excited. I was taking pictures of myself in the big mirror at the prosthetist's office. And so I'm sitting there in my chair, and for the first time, I'm kind of looking at myself head on, and I got my camera out to see, what do I look like with just one leg sitting here looking at myself? And then the prosthetic came in, and it was the test socket. It wasn't glorious and beautiful, but to me, I grabbed it. I was holding it up in the air, taking selfies and celebrating, and Yeah, I was ready to go. I was ready to go from that day. I was on my feet, and I could wear where I had been limited before with the shoes that I could wear because of the foot deformity that I had. Let me tell you.
You went shoe shopping, didn't you?
I did
shoe shopping.
and I might have a problem.
See, it's not a problem. It's in your genetics. You have 2X chromosomes. You love shoes. It just
it's a delayed. It was a delayed thing. I didn't have choices up to this point, and now I have choices.
Wonderful. Now, when you didn't start off with the Elan.
No.
What was your first prosthetic foot that you started with?
I started out with a rush foot.
Okay.
And I had no problems with it. As a matter of fact, I had nothing to compare it to. So to me, it was awesome.
Okay.
And then I got to try another foot because I told my prosthetist, Alice, I said, I want to try everything. How do I know what's best for me? How do I know what will work best for me unless I try what's out there? And I was like this, I'm an amputee virgin right now. I don't even know what to ask for. So she let me try a couple of things, and I tried a couple of different composite feet. I did the rush foot, I did a Maverick, and I went and did a mission trip with the prosthetics team to Guatemala on my Maverick at the time. And I mean, it was a lot of uneven ground and uphill, downhill. We walked miles, and I had not been an amputee for a year yet.
Oh my gosh.
And let me tell you something though. We were in Guatemala, and I've got all of these. I approached this tent, which was set up outside our makeshift prosthetics clinic. And all of these one-legged people were looking at me walking in, and it was like I could have had wings and a halo. I was an angel. They wanted to be like me, and I felt like this is why this happened to me. These people had so much hope, and here I was on still relatively simple composite foot. It worked great for me. Yeah. And doing these things. And then I went on to other feet. I have tried lots of feet.
And guys, I'm going to interrupt Julie for a second here, because this is a soapbox that y'all who've been listening to me for more than 5 minutes hear me say all the time. And Luis, I'm sure you're the same way with your own patients. The fact that she said, I don't know what's going to be best for me, so I'm going to try everything. And all of the feet that she named, guys, good feet. But it just goes to show that what is good for one person is not going to be necessarily the best for another person. And the only way you're going to find out is if you try multiple feet. Luis, is there anything you want to add to that?
That's true. I mean, you really don't know what you don't know. And if all you've ever experienced is one type of product, one type of foot, then that's all you really have to go on. Our sales team is really good about setting people up with extended trials so that they can actually not just use the product in the office, but use it outside of the office in the real world, take it to work with them, go about their activities of daily living and see how it fits into their life. That's a really important part of it. You made mention of your first experience seeing that test socket. And I think as a prosthetist, we become accustomed to seeing patients on a daily basis. And even some of us who have gone through the process ourselves will forget how special that first experience is. And I try not to forget it, because I remember what my first time was like when I went to go see my prosthetist. I was really excited, and I also didn't know what to expect. And in my short career, the few people that I've had a chance to train, I always make it a point to tell them, make sure that your test socket looks clean, because that's your patient's first impression of your capability. And if it looks sloppy, even though it just is a test socket, it's just going to be used there in the office for gait training and for dialing somebody in. It's still their first impression. It's what they see at the front door. It's how they think of you. So that's a really important thing to take home. And I'm sure a lot of the prosthetists apply it. I know, your prosthetist up in Washington, Alice, is a really, really good prosthetist. I've had the chance to meet her on a couple of occasions, and it's safe to say you're in good hands with that group there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And Julie's group, if you're on board tonight, give her a shout out. Don't be shy. All right, we've got Stephen says, you look 37, Julie.
Why, thank you,
There
Stephen.
you go. Stephen, I think you're the favorite viewer for tonight. Let's see. Johnny, this is a great question. We'll address it real quick. How challenging is it to switch to the Elan from a regular everyday energy return foot? And Johnny, I'm going to encourage you to look at last week's episode, because in that episode, we discussed that at length, especially on a couple of research study that's linked in last week's episode that talks about people who went from using an energy return foot to people who went to using the hydraulic foot. And there was a positive change. In many cases, their gait efficiency became more efficient. And it's one of those things where if you're happy with your dynamic response foot, then by all means, continue with life. But if you're having issues with your energy response foot and you're not just getting that right feel for it, that might be an indication that trying out a hydraulic foot is something you should look into. So Julie, continue with your story.
Well, I kind of address that question because in my process of trying all these different feet, I was fortunate enough to be asked by my prosthetist office if I would participate in kind of an in-service thing. They were learning how to program and getting their CEUs for these microprocessor feet. And I'm like, oh, I'm there. And so I couldn't wait to try it, because I had been saying from the beginning that, I had an amputation. I'm a right below knee amputee, and I lost my leg, but I lost my ankle too, my foot, but I lost my ankle too. And that, while I didn't have anything really to complain about with my other feet, I knew I was missing my ankle. It was inconvenient for a lot of things. Getting in and out of a car, where you got to tuck your foot up behind the door to get in, getting up and down out of a chair, sloped terrain. I live in a 3-story house. I have a steep driveway. So I do stairs and slopes every day. And so when I got to do these in-services, the very first one I tried, and I've tried 3 different microprocessor ankles. The very first one I tried, it was like the clouds parted and the heavens shined down, and I was like, I have to have this.
Yeah, the wheel on the wings. Yeah, the halo wings.
It was amazing. Yeah. It was amazing to me. They took me out so they could film the walking and all that sort of stuff. And I said, my car is over there, and that's where I'm going, and I'm not coming back.
Later on in the local news.
So I got to repeat that 3 different times, 3 different manufacturers. And then fortunate enough to meet Gil from Blatchford, who brought in a sample unit for me to try and take home of the Elan. And I had to have it. It was, of the ones that I tried, it had an energy return that I knew I needed for how much I walk and move and my stairs and my slopes and all that. I knew it was the right one for me out of the 3 that I tried. So I chose it, but it really was dependent on the fact that Blatchford let me take it home. And I had that thing for like 2 weeks before I decided. I ran it through everything I do in my everyday life. And I found that the energy return in the Elan really helped me. Before that, I had been having back pain. I'd had spine injections because my gait was so wonky. And I had a choice, how many injections can you have a year into your spine before we send you to a back surgeon? And I'm not going to make any medical claims here, Luis, but ever since I've had the Elan, I have not been back to the back doctor. I have not taken so much as a Tylenol for my back and hip pain. And I know it's because of the ankle.
And I'm going to interject there, Julie, just from my own experience as a PT. Many times my patients come into my clinic, not just because they're learning how to use their prosthesis, but because they're experienced users, and now they have a lot of back pain. And 80% of their back pain I can get cleared up by taking care of gait deficiencies. So if the foot is not the right foot for you, or if you're not utilizing it properly, you're going to have back pain. And concurrently, you can help reduce so much of that back pain by fixing the gait cycle. Luis, do you want to add to that?
I completely agree with you. I mean, I've seen it in my own practice. The other thing, and Julie mentioned this earlier, being able to sit comfortably with most of your foot on the floor makes a big difference as far as sitting posture goes. A lot of times, if you don't, well, let's say every time, if you don't have the ability to move your ankle, you have to sit with a certain amount of pelvic obliquity. So you're leaning off to one side. We spend probably more time sitting down than we do walking. And when you add up the deviations from walking with a prosthesis, in addition to sitting unevenly, that's just a recipe for back pain. I mean, it's plain and simple. So if you're able to clean up the gait deficiencies and give that person more sitting symmetry, then they're definitely going to benefit from it. And you're a perfect example of that.
Okay. And we have
that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. We have one question here from Sam who asks, what K level is required for a microprocessor ankle? Go ahead, Luis, I'm gonna let you, that one's yours.
So it really depends on the pay source. But because there are some pay sources, namely, I'll just throw it out there, Veterans Affairs, also some workers' comp. We'll make exceptions for lower K levels, K2s, but in general, it's K3. And that's mostly not just because of the microprocessor, but because of the carbon in the foot. So the carbon is reserved for that K3, K4 user.
Okay. And then Wafa is asking, I was wondering how long is your limb, because my prosthetist told me I cannot have it because my limb is too long to have the microprocessor foot. Do you know about the limb length, Luis, and what the restrictions might be, for example, on a SIME amputation or a longer BK?
Well, you probably wouldn't be able to fit it on a SIMES.
Right.
A bilateral patient, it's a great option for them. The build height varies depending on the size of the foot module. Okay. Anywhere from 6 and 11/16 on the low end to 6 and about 3/4 of an inch tall for the bigger builds. So if you got a short to medium length below the knee amputation, it's going to fit under there, provided you don't have a lock and a vacuum pump and all these other things that would add build height to it. So they have to take that into account. So if is it WAFA or RAFA?
Yes, WAFA.
WAFA.
Yes.
Yeah. So if WAFA's maybe in a locking mechanism, I mean, that can take up to 1.5 inches, 2 inches in addition to their socket. Prosthetist might consider putting him in suction or a passive vacuum system, which would give him a little bit more build height and give him the option to use his foot.
There you go. Let's see. Daniel says, I've noticed that if I use the wrong foot for my activities, that even though I can do them, my pain level will vary. And I was actually having this conversation with one of my patients today, that changing out your feet or your knees sometimes for depending on just how widely varied your activity level is, it's much like changing our footwear. We have to wear the appropriate footwear appropriate to the activity that we're doing. And I see in my own patients how difficult it is sometimes for them to find the one foot that can really go across the board and suit all of their activities and all their needs. So Julie, you got to trial this amazing foot.
Yes.
For 2 weeks. And I have a lot of people questioning and putting questions up there on the demos. Can they get a demo in their area? Can they get a demo in their area?
We probably just put Luis on the spot for that.
Yeah, I think so. And guys, we're going to, I'm going to address that at the end. I'm going to address that at the end of the show, folks. So I'm not ignoring you, I promise. So what next, Julie? You had to give that foot back at some point, or
I did. I had to make the decision, and I had to give it back. And when I gave it back, Gil was our rep out here, and he said he and Alice, my prosthetist, both looked at me and said it's going to be denied. And I said, well, on what basis? And Gil said, well, your insurance has labeled this as investigational, but it's not investigational, he said. So I said, well, then let's get this thing denied, because I've got somebody I want to talk to. We're going to take this to the top, and we're going to get them to change their policy. That was my attitude anyway.
And I'm going to pause you. Alice is on board. She's saying, hi, this is Alice from Mount Vernon. Guys, right now, if you have ever heard some flavor of this answer, type in me or type in something. Just type in me, yup, yes. If any of you have been told by your insurance company that you could not have a particular device because it was, what did they use? Investigational, or not necessary, or it was considered to be a luxury, right? How many of you have heard something like this from your insurance companies? I should see this screen lighting up because I've heard so many of your stories. So Julie, while we're waiting for those answers to come in, what happened next?
So we put the claim in, and it was denied, just like they said. And I immediately looked on the back of the denial for what my next step was, because I wanted to make sure that I was meticulous in following their appeal procedures. I didn't want to give them a technicality by which they could dismiss me. So I immediately requested a review. I put in my appeal, followed all of their rules. They were going to send it out for an independent review. I knew it would be denied again because this independent reviewer was not going to change an insurance company's policy.
No.
So I was really just playing the game. Just play the game until I can get to somebody who can change this. And so I put in my initial appeal. It went and it got independently reviewed, and it came back. And the doctor who independently reviewed it was kind enough to send me a copy of the policy that said it was investigational. In other words, it really didn't matter what he read or what my case was or what I had done to get to this point. The policy was still that it was investigational. So I went to the next step, which was to request a panel review. And that's the final internal step for the insurance company, was a panel review. And I submitted all the materials to them that they wanted from me, letters from my doctors. I sent copies of studies that Gil was awesome and kept me in the loop of things that were happening study-wise. I sent them screenshots of a couple of pending class action lawsuits with a couple of other insurance companies, just to say, look, this is going to change the hard way or the nice way. One way or another, it's going to change. And so I sent that packet off to them, and they called me and said they were happy to set up a phone conference for a panel review. And I said, no, this is going to be in person because this is going to be show and tell time. And so they had to put together a group and a room. And it was like going into a little deliberation suite, I guess. And so we could tell our story. So we did this, and I assembled my little entourage. I took Alice, my prosthetist, with me because I knew if there were any technical issues related to prosthetics, that she would be able to answer better than I. I also brought a couple of good friends. I don't know who's familiar with Forrest Stump out there, but
I've heard that name.
Yes. Look it up, Cosi.
I've heard that name. I've seen that name on Facebook. I'm going to look it up after the show's over.
Yeah, we had Nicole Verkeilen came from Forrest Stump. She was already a trained lead advocate for the Amputee Coalition. She had all of her facts for Medicare reimbursements for these things. And then I also had Natalie with me. Her last name escapes me right now. Sorry, Natalie. She's a research prosthetist. I had her come in with us, and we went in, and I sat down on this table.
Holy smokes.
We all sat around this table, and this team that was there for the hearing included the medical director, 2 RNs, and a legal representative. Because,
I was a lawyer in the house. A lawyer in the house.
Yeah, so we started the hearing, and I asked them right up front, can I please know your level of understanding of amputees and amputee issues so that I can speak to you without losing you. I don't want to use terms that you're not familiar with. Nobody in that room who was there to review my case had any experience with any amputee issues.
Unbelievable.
So we started from the beginning. We explained what K levels were. I got some chuckles when the bag that I brought with me, I unloaded like 5 different pairs of shoes on the table. They were all like athletic shoes or flat shoes or just slightly sloped, no heels, nothing silly.
Right.
And I asked them to agree with me that everything that was on the table was an appropriate shoe for an amputee. I wasn't trying to get exotic here. And then explain to them the difference of a prosthetic that has a fixed angle that doesn't really change. And if I change my shoes, I'm being thrown forward, or my knees hyperextending backwards, and you stumble, and explaining to them that this ankle that they didn't feel I deserved would adjust in real time to any of these heels, any of these shoes, and I wouldn't have that problem. And so there were a lot of aha moments for these people in the room who had no idea these were even issues. And that's the problem. That's the problem. They won't change a policy. They don't even know what the issues are.
They don't even know what it is. And Daniel says here, remember, you are your own best advocate. Don't take no for an answer. Bug them every day if you have to and get your answer that you want. Now, Julie, your personal background, are you a clinician?
No.
Do you have a clinical or medical background?
I was pretty much born into an orthopedic unit. So, and spent my whole life, first name basis with most of my orthopedic surgeons. And then as in my adult career, I went into medical transcription and medical records. And during that career, I worked with orthopedic surgeons and hospitals. So I did a lot with insurance. I did a lot with the medical community, and neither one of those communities intimidates me. Because I know how they work. The providers want to take care of their patients.
Yeah.
The insurance companies want to save money. You can't fault them for their mission. You just have to make it make sense and make it work for you in a way where you're not insulting to them. It's not their fault. The policy is the way it is.
Right.
And only get it changed for yourself.
Right. And I chuckle a lot and I poke a lot at the insurance companies, but they're not the devil. They have to keep their doors open, and it's a business. That being said, sometimes I've had to go to bat for my patients and saying to these insurance companies, if you were to front load and compensate this patient with 3 extra PT visits, for example, those 3 PT visits will give the patient what they need to be able to go back to work, become producing members of society again, and therefore be able to pay for the insurance that you are providing. So it's you got to appeal to it sometimes from that way, but you're absolutely right. providers want to help their patients. And even among the providers, I've had my own battles with my own insurance, with cancer reimbursement and stuff like that. Some of my own surgeons didn't know how to get through to the insurance company to explain to them what it was that was best for my survival. So you went head to head with these folks. So what happened next?
Well, I wanted them to look me in the eyes. I wanted to make it personal so that I wasn't just another claim form, another case number. I wanted them to look me in the eye and tell me, why don't I need an ankle? I lost my ankle with my amputation. Why do I not need one? Can you explain that to me? And I know that the process touched the people that were in the room, and they told us so as we were leaving, that it was very rare that anyone would challenge a case to the point of an in-person panel review, because insurance is scary and intimidating if you don't understand how it works. And so they said that normally they take about a week to make a decision, but they asked me for 2 weeks because they wanted to assemble a policy review committee to actually look at this policy.
Wow.
That alone felt like a victory
to
me, that they were actually going to look at it. In the end, it was, I won my case. I had asked them at the time not to make an exception for me, but to change the policy. They told me they wouldn't be changing the policy because I was the first and only amputee to ever challenge it.
Wow.
And if I'm the only one,
then
it must be working. And so they were excited for me that I was going to get my ankle. And I told them, but that's only half of what I wanted. I wanted, I wanted the whole thing. And at that point, I told them that I was going into lead advocate training with the Amputee Coalition. And they told me right to my face, "We're going to be seeing you again, aren't we?" And I said, "You can count on it."
And I'm going to walk here even better next time because I'm going to have my Elan.
Yep.
So, Luis, do you have enough fingers and toes to be able to count how many times this has happened to one of your patients where you've had to go up against an insurance company and get denied?
Yeah, I've lost count. And you were your own advocate. And that's the most important part, is as a patient to become your own advocate and to direct your attention and all of your, I shouldn't say anger because it isn't necessarily anger, but direct all of that frustration towards the right body, towards somebody that can make that change. It's not towards that practitioner. Yeah, that practitioner has several incentives to do the right thing for you. One, he wants to satisfy you as a customer. Two, they want you to have less problems because you're going to be more satisfied. You're going to lead a happier life. And three, the added incentive to bill for something that they're actually working on. So, I have all the incentive in the world to do exactly what you're looking to have done. But yeah, it is very tough because insurances will deny stuff and basically just shut it down with a statement like the one that you received, experimental technology. And how do you argue with that? You got actual studies that back it up. You can provide them that, but I think you did the right thing by showing them in person and setting that precedent going forward that this is an experimental technology and it is very useful technology. So kudos to you for doing that, because that's what we need.
And it was a very thoughtful, and that's one thing that folks, I want to point this out. She presented a very thoughtful argument. There have been times where I've seen patients get so excited about some of the newest technology, some of the best bells and whistles on certain prosthetic devices, and they automatically want those prosthetic devices without even trying them to see if that's what's best for them. And then they get into this vicious cycle with their insurance company, and they never really even trialed the device to really make sure that that was in fact the best for them. Julie, I think you did it perfectly. You trialed many different feet.
Yes.
And you initially started out with a foot that I'm assuming was approved by your insurance company, and you did fine with that. And I guess that's one of the things that I want to stress to people is doing this the right way, not just blindly going up against the insurance company asking for the highest level or the most expensive component. It's saying, what is the best one for me, and why is it the best one for me? How is it going to change the quality of my life? And that's how it needs to be presented to the insurance company, exactly how Julie did it, exactly how she did it, with education and information in a thoughtful process. So well done. So what did this lead to? What did this lead to?
My goodness. Oh, well.
Guys, listen up. This is my favorite part right here, right here. I'm going to be quiet. Okay.
Word got out in our very tight-knit community that I had taken on this insurance company and I won. And I was contacted almost immediately by the Amputee Coalition to come and please do lead advocate training with them.
Yeah, I bet.
And which is the Amputee Coalition. I hope all of you amputees out there are familiar with them. And if you're not, you should be. They are fighting for you. They're trying very hard to get legislation passed that will take care of a lot of these problems. Some states it has passed. It's the Insurance Fairness for Amputees Act. In some states it has passed. In my state it hasn't. All it asks is that if an insurance company covers prosthetics, that they cover them at the same level as Medicare, which seems like a fairly low bar, but Medicare will pay for the Elan.
Mm-hmm. It's a start, and insurance companies follow Medicare. Yep.
That's right. So this battle is going on, trying to get this legislation passed, and that will help everyone. Mm-hmm. But I came out of this feeling like I got my lead advocate training. I'm ready to help everyone and talk to my congressman and try to get this legislation passed. But in the meantime, the individuals were still struggling. And so I decided, with the encouragement of Alice, the prosthetist, who has all these fabulous ideas, I have now launched an outreach and advocacy group to help amputees who are in a place where this technology will be denied. And it doesn't matter which manufacturer, the code is the same. They plug a code in and it gets denied, no matter which brand name it is. It's not just Blatchford. But I have created this group. It's called Ampu Up. And my mission is to help folks self-advocate, give them the information that they need to complete their appeal. And I have already a couple that I'm helping. And to me, that's the victory. If I can help, one person at a time, it changes their world. It's so big for the individual, while the bigger fight goes on in Washington, D.C. or in the whatever your state capital is. That battle continues to go on. But I really want to help the folks that are falling through the cracks locally that don't have the Insurance Fairness for Amputees Act in their state. That would avoid a lot of this anyways, especially when it comes to the microprocessor ankles. So yeah, Ampu Up, ampuup.org online. You can contact me. It's in its infancy. We're having our big launch party in March. So, but right now we have our internet presence and ready to start helping people not be intimidated by the denial that you may be getting.
And guys, I know I have not just amputees listening in tonight, but I do have a large number of prosthetists and physical therapists. So is this a resource that clinicians can use?
The minute I found out that I got my Elan authorized, that I was going to get it, I said, I want prosthetists to introduce this technology to their patients, because there was a hesitancy to do so because you set these patients up for such disappointment. And so this technology's been out there, but it's almost like it's been a secret. They just don't want your feelings hurt, I guess. They don't want to get your hopes up and then tell you it's going to be denied. And so the only way we're going to get these policies changed is to get more denials and have more hearings and make more noise. And that's what I want to do. I want to make some noise and show that we are not the largest community, but we have been underrepresented, and it's time to pay a little more attention to us and let us advance with the technology that has been developed specifically to help us. If we can't get that far and advance this technology and get these things approved, then where does ongoing research and development go? If you can't get these paid for, what is a company's incentive
to continue producing these technology? Absolutely.
Keep working for better technology. We have to get this stuff paid for. So no does not mean no when it comes from the insurance company. And even if you go through the appeals process and they still say no, remember those class action lawsuits I mentioned before? I'm not afraid of that either.
I was like, you do not want to meet her in a dark alley, folks. She means business.
It's the right thing to do.
And so Robert's asking, can you give the spelling to Amp You Up? Robert, I'm going to be posting every link, her link to her website on everywhere you see Cosi Talks, my website, on my YouTube channel, Instagram, and on Facebook. So it's going to be plastered everywhere after the show is over. And it's interesting that you talk about the research. So Luis and I were chatting a little bit before the show, and sorry guys, let me just throw that off of my laptop. Okay. So I did a show last night with a group of physical therapists on Facebook, and we were discussing a research study that was done quite a few years ago. And it was comparing the sea leg to a mechanical knee. And it was showing all the functional tests that they tested these above the knee amputees to see, is the microprocessor unit, does it really provide a functional advantage? Guess who won? The sea leg. And the percentages and the statistics, Luis, I don't know if you've ever read this study. It's the Jason Highsmith, Jason Kale study.
I have seen this. Yeah.
It was a groundbreaking study, because they started using this study to show the insurance companies that it was not investigational, that it in fact did improve the function. And clinicians will quote this study sometimes to get the approval for the sea leg, even to the point, and I'm sneaking this in there, the study showed that some of the people who were K2 users, when they were given the sea leg, they became K3 capable. So kind of put that one in the back of your head there for a while, guys. So I think we're going to hopefully start to see this trend now that we're seeing microprocessor units in the ankle and the feet systems, that we'll start to see this ability come through, and hopefully insurance companies will start to recall the studies from the microprocessor knees and apply it a little bit more to the feet. But we need this research. It goes hand in hand. We need more people to fight for themselves, to advocate for themselves. We need the prosthetists and the PTs to jump in on board and then keep this research going, because that, like you just said it beautifully, Julie, that's the only way we're going to see advances in all this technology.
Right, and we're talking about technology that's been available now for microprocessor knees over 20 years, microprocessor ankles now for 5, almost 10 years in some cases. So they aren't investigational. There are proven benefits to utilizing them. But Julie makes a good point. Where do we go from here? If we're still talking about denying technology that's now almost 10 years old, right? These companies that make these products see that it might even be a dead end. A lot of research and development goes into these products to have them come out to market and then have insurances or pay sources completely deny them. A lot of what spurs technology is people's ability to buy it, people's ability to apply it, So why do we see such huge technological jumps in television technology or earphone technology? It's because people are constantly buying them every 1 to 2 years. Um, so that market for prosthetic products, and the fact that in this country it's really just big insurance companies that are buying it for their patients, really slows down the technology part of it and the innovation. So that you make a good point, Julie. We have to advocate for ourselves, because otherwise we're basically going to be stuck fitting people with stuff that's 20, 30 years old technologically.
Yep. And I'm going to make the appeal to my fellow clinicians on right now, keep up with your research, use the research to your advantage, use your skills as a clinician to help advocate for your patients. And I'm putting Julie on the spot, man. If there's a PT or a prosthetist out there who has a patient that fits this bill, I know I can think of a couple of my own, contact her, contact her, and she will help you hopefully find those loopholes and not loopholes, but the right path to getting some of these things done for your patients. And we shouldn't have to be afraid as clinicians to recommend what's appropriate for our patients based on insurance denial. And guys, I'm guilty. There have been a couple of times in my career where I didn't want to tell my patient about a particular device because I knew their insurance would not cover it. I'm guilty, and I feel bad about that.
I'm guilty of that too. And I've actually been surprised presenting solutions to people that I knew their insurance wasn't going to pay for. And when they saw what a big difference it made in their life, and then they got denied by the insurance, they didn't go the extra mile like you did. They just said, the heck with it. I've got a retirement plan. I'm in a pretty good place. I'll just finance it myself. And they totally blew me out of the water. I thought I was being irresponsible because I was imposing a financial burden on them. That's not necessarily my decision to make. I'm supposed to present them with what I feel is the appropriate solution to their problem. And I have to sometimes step back and remind myself of that's what they're trusting me to do, is to give them my honest professional opinion.
And now we've got Julie in our court, so gloves are coming off.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can catch a couple of these comments. They're just like my screen is like on fire right now. Let's see. Does Pat is my extremely active above the knee. He asks, does the Elan foot give an advantage to an improved gait above the knee amputees as well as below the knee amputees? I do currently have, and I'm grateful for a C leg. Medicare covers Elan?
Medicare covers Elan. And actually, for above the knee users, we have the first fully connected microprocessor limb. So it's an above the knee microprocessor knee and foot, which combines the technology of the Elan and the technology of a microprocessor knee. So there's real-time adaptations as far as swing speed, stance control, going up and down stairs, going up and down ramps. So I would encourage them to look at the links, LINX on our website, on Blatchford's website. That's the product I'm talking about. You can combine an Elan with an existing hydraulic knee. That's fine to do, but you don't really truly get all the benefits that the LINX offers you. Take a look through that. If that's something they're interested in, we can set them up with a trial of that as well. They just have to talk to the prosthetist and then get in one of our sales team, and then maybe one of the clinical specialists, to come in and set them up for a trial.
Absolutely. And guys, just so you know, I'm going to put this little tiny plug in. My website, which I just posted, the website address, cositalks.com. I have uploaded a ton of stuff from Blatchford, and I have a lot of changes on that website. So all the links of everything that we've talked about, including the links, is on the Cosi Talks website. So go ahead and check that out. And you can even sign up for the Blatchford email sign up, where you can get all the updates on all of the technology, and you get a free gift. So if you go to the Cosi Talks website, it's all right there, including the schedule of shows when Blatchford's going to be coming back throughout this year to talk about the links. Future plug. All right. Bobby says, never always present the best technology. Let us choose. You're absolutely right, Bobby. You're absolutely right.
Right.
Let's see. Ron says, thank you. And then let's see, we have another question here. Doug, interesting question. He says, soon to be bilateral, 3 years apart. Is it best to have different feet, legs based on the level of recovery, or should they always be matched the same? Thoughts?
In my personal opinion, I like to match people with the same type of foot because it's strange, but the human body's always searching for symmetry. And if you fit people, I've seen this done. I've seen people walk into my office with two different feet because they started out as a unilateral below the knee amputee. They were fit with one type of foot. Then they went and saw another prosthetist. Maybe they moved or that prosthetist left town and they're fit with another type of prosthetic device. And their main complaints typically come down to just what they're feeling at the ground. They feel uneven. They're not able to take even steps. So I would encourage them to be fit with the same type of prosthetic technology on both sides.
There you go. All right. We are almost caught up. Craig says, hi, Cosi, 8 months and still trying to fit a new socket. What area is your guest from? I think they're trying to look for Alice there. Right below the knee, feels like we're behind in approval now. So you're in Washington?
Yes.
What area? I know you said hour north of Seattle.
Yeah, I live on Camano Island. My prosthetist, Alice, is up in Mount Vernon, which is right off I-5. So, I mean, I-5 does the whole West Coast. Just hop on and come on
There
up.
you go. Craig, what part of the country are you from, Craig? Why don't you let us know where you're from, and maybe there's somebody on board tonight who can make a recommendation for you. All right, guys. Robert says, Julie, you rock. Guys, and I do apologize. There were so many wonderful questions this evening. If I missed your question, please send me a private message and I will answer it. Those of you who have done it know that I keep my word and I do answer all of my emails. So if I missed your question, please, please, please don't be shy. Send me a message through the Cosi Talks messenger link. I know several of you were asking me if there were demos that could be done in your area for the Elan. Once again, I am happy to direct you to the right person, which would probably be the local Blatchford representative in your area. So if this is something you're interested in, private message me after the show and I would be happy to connect you to the right people. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up for this evening. Julie, I haven't stopped smiling this entire show. I've just had this big stupid grin on my face the whole show. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Hands down, one of the best stories I've had in this show. And it's the everyday story. It's the story that so many people struggle with, and you found the solution to it. And what's best is you're giving back to the community. You're giving back what you received. You didn't just take that foot and run with it.
It's funny how from the challenge came the passion. And now apparently my life has a new direction.
Yes. And I cannot wait to help you push you in that direction too, because I'm going to be sending a lot of people your way. So guys, please check back to my website and to the Facebook page. Along with this video, I am going to be posting all the information so that you can ask Julie your questions directly. And then Luis, I cannot thank you enough for being here in the hot seat for 2 weeks in a row. Your knowledge and expertise has been just absolutely wonderful. And thank you so much for answering all of our questions. And guys, again, if you have any questions that I was not able to answer, or Luis was not able to answer, or Julie was not able to answer, message me and let me know. Hold me to it. All right, guys, with that.
Thank you, Cosi.
Oh, my pleasure.
And Julie, have a great evening.
Hey, everybody, get out there and fight for yourselves.
Yes. Go. I feel like I should be posting a picture of and now I'm brain farting. Mel Gibson, the Mel Gibson movie.
Oh, Braveheart?
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that is a good movie.
I was kind of picturing Rose the Riveter or something.
All right, guys. As always, thank you so much for letting us be a part of your evening. I will see you next Wednesday. Same bat time, same bat channel.